Picking a higher learning institution can be a challenge, especially if you don't know the differences between the different types of institutions that we get. So in this video, I'll briefly cover the differences between a TVET college, a technikon or University of Technology, and a university. And another thing I'll also cover is the difference between a public and a private learning institution. So stick around. Hello everyone and welcome to I Know You Know, your one-stop knowledge-sharing platform for all things careers, life after high school, as well as opportunities that are available to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you like the content that we share and you feel like we're making a difference, please feel free to share our videos and encourage other people to like and share them as well. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. So first, we'll start by talking about the different types of institutions that we get in South Africa, specifically higher learning institutions. I do have a video titled 15 Things You Can Do After High School. And in this video, I also covered the differences in between these institutions, and I even went and gave examples. So if you're looking for a longer explanation, please feel free to watch that video as well. However, in this video, I will be covering the major differences as well as the difference between a private and a public higher learning institution. So what are the three types of higher learning institutions that you can get in South Africa? It's firstly TVET colleges, then you have universities of technology, also known or previously known as technikons, and then you also get universities. So in this video, I'll be covering briefly what the difference is between the three, just to give you a bit of a better idea when you are choosing what you should consider and what each higher learning institution comes with or what it means. The first institution that we'll start with are FET colleges or TVET colleges. So previously they were known as FET colleges, which meant further education and training. Now they're known as technical vocational education and training. Now what these types of learning institutions or these colleges offer is they offer vocational as well as occupational courses. What this means is that there is a focus on academic knowledge, but also practical workplace readiness. So this would be actual practical work that would make you ready for the workplace. In terms of the time that these courses take, they actually range from a few months to a couple of years, depending on the type of program that you're going to do. And the entry requirements to do these courses are not as strict in comparison to the other learning institutions. This is because grade 10, 11, and 12 actually form part of the FET phase. So meaning after you've passed grade 9, you can actually get into an FET college. But of course, in terms of what you would need to study, you need to first start doing what the equivalent of grade 10, 11, and 12 is before you can do other programs. And this would obviously also depend on the type of program that you want to get into and the type of course that you want to do. However, in terms of the strictness of the entry requirements, the colleges do have less of a strict criteria for this. And then last but not least, this option is the most affordable of the three higher learning institutions. So in terms of the money you need to pay for the fees, this option is the most affordable. So yes, that is it about technical vocational education and training. So up next we have universities of technology or technikons. So these institutions offer students career-oriented certificate or diploma programs. However, some do actually offer degrees as well. So in these institutions, there is an initial focus on theoretical knowledge, and then towards the end of the program, there is also a focus on practical knowledge. So in terms of the entry requirements, these do vary depending on the type of program that one wants to do. However, for all the programs, you will need to have passed your matric, at least with a higher certificate level of pass. If you don't understand the types of passes that you can get in matric, I also do have a video. I will link it on the tab above so that you can also watch that. You do have to have a higher learning certificate type of a pass in your matric year to get into a University of Technology. In terms of the costs, technikons can get quite expensive. However, there are a lot of institutions and organizations that do offer funding for students to be in technikons or universities of technology. So if this is you and you are in need of funding, do check out the videos that we have around bursaries and different opportunities, because there might be something there for you. Last but not least, we have universities. So universities offer undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. And the focus in universities is mostly theoretical. So you will not get as much hands-on experience as you would in the other two institutions, especially in a University of Technology. So you will get more of the theoretical work or the theoretical study behind your degree. The entry requirements do vary depending on the program. However, you need to have passed your matric with a bachelor's pass to even be considered. And your subjects might also need to align with the program that you are going to study. So just have a look. If you are interested in getting into university, have a look at the program that you want to do and what types of requirements they do have for that program, and see if the subjects that you are doing do align with what it is that they do require from you. In terms of the cost, this is the highest of the three higher learning institutions. So a lot of people, especially in the South African context, would need to have their fees funded by someone or subsidized by someone. There are a lot of opportunities, organizations, and even government-based funds that do support or fund students to be in universities. So even here, you would need to have a quick search and find out if your program is covered by these institutions and if you can get funding from the various options that are available. So up next, I'll be covering the differences between private and public learning institutions. So of all these three institutions I've mentioned, you also then get private institutions as well as public institutions. Without any further ado, let's get into it. So you do get private institutions as well as public institutions. So I'll be comparing them based on different issues, but I'll discuss one and then the other. So private colleges are privately owned and do not get state funding. So this would mean that an actual person or group of people or business might own these institutions, and some of them, they do run them like businesses as well. So they do not get state funding and they are privately owned. Whereas with public institutions, a lot of the times, actually not even a lot of the times, the whole point is public. So with public institutions, they are actually owned by the state and often even subsidized by the state. In terms of funding students, private institutions rarely ever fund students. They might have some programs here or there or bursaries here or there, but it is not a common practice for private institutions to offer students funding. However, when it comes to public institutions, there are often a lot of state-funded programs that students can take advantage of, and even external organizations are often more willing to fund students that are in state-owned institutions. So just have a look at this as well. You might be interested to go into you might be interested to go to a private institution. Just check if there is enough funding for that institution, unless if you do have funds to pay for yourself. Okay, this is a little bit left field, but oftentimes when there are state protests or protests affecting state, a lot of private institutions are not affected by these, as they do run on a separate system altogether. Whereas with the public learning institutions, they are often affected by these types of strikes and like nationwide or state-related disputes that do happen. Privately owned institutions are often more expensive than public institutions in terms of the fees. So this is also something to look out for, because you might see a similar program in a private and a public institution, but you might find that it's actually more expensive to do in a private institution than a public institution. And this has a lot to do with the fact that, as mentioned earlier, government does not subsidize private institutions. So they do need to make up the money largely from student fees or from fees that students pay. In terms of accreditation, private learning institutions are accredited nationally, whereas public learning institutions are actually have full government accreditation. What this means is that they are not only accredited nationally, but can also be accredited internationally, depending on the relation with the country with the other country, and of course the type of program it is. So in terms of the private institutions usually do have a limited number of students purely based on their capacity, whereas public learning institutions are often bigger and would have more students. And then when it comes to types of qualifications, a lot of private institutions would usually be a private institution for a specific industry, given the capacity and what they can cater for. So you might find that all the qualifications that are there are more specific to a specific industry. Whereas with public institutions, because of their size, their capacity, and the resources that they do have access to, you can get a wider range of programs in one institution. Like, it wouldn't necessarily just be focused on business. It might have business related courses, science related courses, law, medicine, different types of courses essentially in one institution. Whereas with private institutions, they do sometimes have a pure focus on a specific industry. So just have a look at the type of institution you are interested in and whether your specific program is in that institution. Last but not least, this point is a little bit, I don't know. I think since COVID, it might have changed a little bit, but a lot of private institutions have for a long time been offering distance learning. Whereas with public institutions, a lot of the institutions do not offer distance learning. Of course, post-COVID, some programs might have changed this, and you might find that even a public institution for a specific program can actually offer distance learning. But historically and before COVID, it was more popular for private institutions to offer distance learning than it was for public institutions. And I think this also had a lot to do with capacity, because if you can offer distance learning, then you don't need to be limited to what your building or your classes can hold. You can actually host a lot more students, which it made sense then for private institutions to adopt that method a little bit more openly than what public institutions would. But now post-COVID, I think a lot of institutions have changed. Some are still changing and some are still going to change as a result of the effects of COVID. So we'll see how this trend goes, but this was historically the case. So which institution should you go to? Once again, it really does depend on your resources and your access, and also what program you might want to do. There are a lot of students that might want to do programs that they wouldn't find at a public institution, or if they're not accepted at a public institution but they still want to do that, they might actually go to a private institution for that reason. So it does depend really on your career goals, your situation, your access, the resources that you do have. And so I encourage you to really watch this video and consider from your perspective and from your access what makes more sense for your career goals. I hope this video was really helpful to help you pick a type of institutions from the different types of institutions, as mentioned, the 3 types, but also from the decision between a public and a private institution. If you like the video, please do give it a like. And if you think it's valuable, please share it with someone who might benefit from this information. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you in the next one.